Hello everyone, and welcome back to BGA TVHD, the show where we do gaming commentaries every other day. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Division 2 and my first impressions of it. I wouldn't have even gotten this game if it weren't for one vital flaw in Anthem's game design, which is its amount of loot drops that it gives out, which is terrible. You're getting rarities of loot that are completely useless to you at a level where you need like a level or two levels above that. But anyway, that's just enough about Anthem. But yeah, I wouldn't have even gotten this game if it weren't for that. And the praise that it's gotten for how satisfying its loot grind is. So basically, the Division 2's story takes place about, I think it was 5 months after Division 1's, after a sickness killed a lot of people. I think that's the general premise of it. To me, honestly, the story and how it feels almost feels the same as Division 1. I didn't play too much of Division 1, but I do feel that there are certain aspects that they're just like pinging upon constantly, that feel very similar in terms of story. Now, of course, the story itself is not anywhere near the main focus, but I've thought that just so far, and obviously I am nowhere near complete with the game, but I thought that overall there was not a character that felt truly unique and that didn't really exist in Division 1, just it was a different person. Now, there are codex entries like on the ground that you can find that will give you snippets of Division 1 lore and Division 2 lore, just different things. Um, and yeah, that's about it for story. I mean, I don't really think you're trying to focus on story in this. If you want a better story, go to Anthem, because Anthem does have a better story. While it is not the greatest, it is definitely better than Division 2's or Destiny 2's or Destinies or Divisions. Just if you want a story, go play that. Gameplay wise, Division 2 is a cover-based shooter in which you constantly are hiding behind boxes or ledges and then aim and shoot over those ledges to hurt your computer controlled opponents until they die. Yeah, I know that was very technical, but that's pretty much the whole point. You have three guns: your primary gun, your secondary gun, and your sidearm. Your sidearm is usually a pistol, and your first and second guns can range anywhere from assault rifles to LMGs to sniper rifles to semi-auto rifles. And you also have separate abilities, which, unlike Anthem's abilities, do not come back nearly as fast, but this game is not built around those abilities, so it's not really that much of a jarring issue. I just wish that you could use the things a little bit easier. There are things like chemical launchers that launch a gas that heals you, or a turret that will shoot enemies that you lock it onto, and these really do make the game have more flavor in terms of how you can actually decide to fight. There are more ways than I remember in Division 1 being to like fight in even just skirmishes on the street. You could just go for shooting, you could try to flank, you could use your turret to shoot them. You could use like a poison chemical launcher to drive them out of an area and spread them out, maybe. all sorts of things. And that leads into another big part of this game, which is a massive strength for it. It's world design. Let me just tell you, this game is beautiful. It is definitely one of the best games I've played. That's not saying it's one of the best looking games on the market. I'm sure there are better looking games than it, but it does look gorgeous. And because of that, the world uh, looks very real and realistic. It's like a one-to-one recreation of Washington D.C. apparently, and that is really reflected in how you're playing. It feels like a lived-in world. It feels like people have been there. It feels like an abandoned civilization, almost overrun by other factions or something. It's just really cool and really well done. And that comes into the actual world design instead of just how it looks. Most of the levels that I've played so far are memorable set pieces, huge set pieces that just captivate you and you remember it. There's one in the Grand Washington Hotel. There's one you're fighting up the White House lawn. It's the first mission. I think the ending one is on Capitol Hill. Spoilers right there, but I'm sure you probably know that something like that would be happening. And there are strongholds in the game that are just basically, I think they're kind of the same kind of concept as the strongholds in Anthem, where they're like just longer and more challenging versions of normal missions with multiple objectives in them. I've not gotten to the level for any of the strongholds yet, so I couldn't tell you a concrete answer, but just in general, the game has so much to do in it. It has much more to do in the end game than Anthem has right now. And for that reason, there is just actually in the story, it has about the same amount of stuff to do, except it feels like more because it's an open world game and you're constantly in the open world with all the little markers of things to do instead of like picking, oh, let's do free play here, uh, and oh, let's do a contract here. This ends up making the whole experience feel a lot more alive, and I've heard it becomes more alive in the end game when you get introduced to the fourth and current final faction, the Black Tusks, which are a technologically advanced faction that use more technology than the other factions, which are the Hyenas, True Sons, and Outcasts. Each of these factions have their own lore on how they were created, but it's honestly not really that interesting. Now, let's go into the non-PvP aspects of the game, which there are two of as far as I know: Conflict and Dark Zones. First, Conflict. That's the one I've gotten far enough to actually try out. They structure it kind of like a Call of Duty game where you are just running, and at least from what I played, which is Domination, it's the first thing I played and the only thing I played. I didn't like it at all because they didn't really balance the gear from the main game. You would have had to get really powerful to actually beat anybody, and their guns were just not on the same level as mine, meaning they were way more powerful, and so I got decimated, and yeah, I didn't like it. They should have normalized it, or heck, even made it kind of a separate thing where it's structured differently, so you're not using the same game guns. I know Destiny 2, at least from what I played of its multiplayer, it was structured in the same kind of way, a Call of Duty like thing, except they actually did normalize the stats on the guns, so you actually have a chance of killing somebody who is farther ahead than you, because it's like a completely different section of the game. So, yeah. Now, on to Dark Zones. These are what's considered PvPvE areas, which there are 3 of them spread across the map of Washington, D.C. Each Dark Zone has their own um, design and look and feel to them, and they're basically areas where there's no surveillance, so you can actually kill other players and also kill enemies, so you can either decide to team up or go against your fellow agents of the division. Yeah, that's really it, honestly, from what I can tell. I know, they're adding the 4th, and they're having a big um they're having a big expansion on like April 10th, which is going to fix a lot of the concerns that people who have gotten to the end game have, mainly concerning the invaded missions, which are versions of missions you completed throughout the story mode, which have been invaded by the Black Tusk. When you got to World Tier 4 and completed all of them, they were no longer available for play. Now, on April 10th, with the introduction of World Tier 5, they will just be unlimited to play forever, which is good because that was an issue that I kind of had, even though I'm not there yet. I kind of thought that was a little stupid, like, why would you do that? But, there are things like that in most games. Like, I can think of one with Anthem, which is, why would you make the Elysian caches only for a limited time and not permanent and put more interesting stuff in there? But that's basically as far as I've gotten and what I think of the game. So yeah, I guess that's about it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. And this is Brandon from Big McLarge Gaming, signing off. Goodbye.